Good evening, everyone. I'm Ankit, and you're watching the Indian Express analysis, which goes live every day at 4 p.m. on the StudyIQ IS English channel. Now, today is 17th of April, and today I have picked up six important articles for you to analyze and also for me to analyze. Now, these articles have appeared in today's newspaper. We'll start off our today's discussion by discussing a new type of disease, that is, or a new type of diabetes known as type 5 diabetes. Now, what are the different classifications of diabetes? What leads to diabetes? What are the causes of diabetes? All of this I will let you know in our today's discussion. Now, all the different types, I will also cover that, and these type of developments relating to any disease or that are in news, they are important from science and tech perspective, right? Which is a part of which paper? Which is a part of GS paper 3. Then in the second article, we'll be understanding that the government is coming up with a phase 2 of national monetization pipeline. Now, monetization pipeline, it essentially was monetization of government's assets. So what kind of assets were monetized by the government? What is the process of monetization? Everything I will cover in our today's discussion, and also we'll try to solve a question which I've curated specially on this topic. Now, these is a efforts of government to mobilize resources. Therefore, this is a part of again GS paper 3 syllabus, that is Indian economy. In the third article, we'll be understanding about an operation conducted by Central Bureau of Investigation, and this operation is known as Operation Chakra. Now, you understand in recent times the cases relating to digital fraud, financial fraud, especially over the digital medium, and cyber crimes have increased. Most of you have heard at least once about what is digital arrest, right? So, the people who are involved in these types of crimes, the CBI is going to arrest these people under the Operation Chakra, because CBI is responsible for conducting investigations relating to financial fraud that may happen anywhere in India, and also sometimes if it happens from outside and it leads to problems of people living in India. So there CBI has the jurisdiction. So we'll try to understand this in our today's discussion. Now, this again is relevant from GS paper 2 perspective. Why? Because CBI is an India's premier investigative agency. Although it is not a statutory body, but still it is very important as far as Indian polity and its syllabus is concerned. And recently, we've also heard debates about the appointment process of directors. So all of that I'm going to cover in our today's discussion. In the fourth article, which is also an article that appeared in last week's newspaper, but as you can understand, for the last 2 days of last week, I was unable to take the sessions because of my health. So that is why I'm going to cover 3D printing in our today's discussion. This is somewhat important from science and tech perspective. And also a question has appeared in prelims already on this topic, 3D printing, but you can't negate for the fact, obviously, that 3D printing can't be asked again. It can very well be asked again in different form. So you have to be prepared, and you have to understand this concept of 3D printing and how it is different from the usual manufacturing processes, right? In the fifth article, we'll be understanding about India Middle East Economic Corridor, which essentially I was going to cover yesterday, but due to paucity of time I was unable to. So I'm going to cover today what are the various aspects of this economic corridor and why is it in news. I will also tell you in our today's discussion. And we'll conclude our today's discussion by understanding why is the value of dollar, which is probably the most popular currency worldwide, why is the value of dollar falling in recent times? And you can understand the guess is most obviously the same due to policies of President Trump. But how has President Trump's policy resulted into fall in the value of dollar and also reduction in the demand of US government securities? All of this I'm going to cover in our today's session. Understand? Now, this is relevant from GS paper 3, well as Indian Middle East Economic Corridor was relevant from IR perspective. That is why GS paper 2. So now I have a very strong feeling that this sixth topic, which is a very transformative development in the global economy, one way or the other, this can be asked in this year's prelims. So please make sure to understand this particular last article in our today's discussion frankly, and if you have any doubt, you understand, you can write those in the comments, and even after the video ends, you can ask me the doubts in the comment section. Need not worry about the kind of doubts. Please feel free to ask doubts, right? Now, the notes for this session, I will make it available on my Telegram channel, ATS Live. This you can search by clicking on the top right hand corner of your app, and alternatively if you're still unable to find it, this is the QR code that you need to scan and it will take you directly to my Telegram channel. Subscribe it. Also, I post important links of the sessions that I take on the YouTube channel so that you keep up to date with everything related to current affairs, right? And as going forward, now as I understand, prelims is not even about roughly 38 days away. So going forward, my session is oriented more towards prelims topics because I want you not to miss out on any important development. And after the prelims completed, we will take a more analytical approach in our sessions. That the sessions and the information that I will provide you in these sessions after the prelims gets over will be more analytical, so as to help you write the answers and approach any kind of a critical analysis that is usually important from mains perspective, right? So this is how this session is going to be in recent times. Now, good evening, Achal, Soham, Augustine, Sheetal, Suraj, Bhanu, Geeta, Baga Spinks. Good evening, everyone. Now, let us start our today's discussion with this first article. Now, this article, if you can see, this appeared in the explained section of our today's newspaper, which is on page 11. Now, this article says that type 5 diabetes has recognized as a distinct form of disease, and why is this significant? So, naturally, you might think that agar type 5 hai to type 1 to 4 bhi hona chahiye, right? That if type 5 is there or it has been classified, so what about type 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay, I will tell you everything in our today's discussion, need not worry. Okay. Now, the context of this article is that the type 5 diabetes, which affects usually the lean and undernourished young adults in low and middle income countries, has officially been recognized as a distinct form of disease by the International Diabetes Federation. Now, neglected for decades in research, and you have to understand globally this problem affects it affects 25 million people, that is about 2.5 crore people. So when a disease affects such many amount of people, so naturally the recognition should have been given. Now it has been given, that is why it is significant. Now this disease is caused by malnutrition induced lowering of insulin production, and it has gained official production, that is why is in news. What type 5 diabetes is, what are other type of diabetes, let us understand this very quickly. But before, first let us quickly try to ascertain what is diabetes. Now, diabetes is a chronic disease that occurs when pancreas, it can no longer produce a hormone known as insulin. Now, there are two cases in how diabetes happen. First, your body is not able to produce insulin, and another case is that your body might be producing insulin, but your body is not able to make use of that insulin to reduce your blood sugar level. Now, what is insulin? Insulin is a hormone that regulates or controls the levels of your blood sugar. So, having insulin is essentially what controls the level of your blood sugar and prevents diabetes from happening. So, you understand, if insulin is not getting generated in our body, our blood sugar levels will spike, and even if it is getting generated but our body is not able to recognize and harness it, still the blood sugar level will increase. Now, not being able to produce or use insulin effectively leads to higher levels of blood glucose, and this is called as hyperglycemia. So please remember this term, hyperglycemia. Now, over the long time, whenever you have high blood sugar levels and it is not getting reduced naturally or through medicine, it can lead to various negative impacts on body. Your organs might start to not function properly. It can damage your healthy organs and make them bad, and it can also affect the quality and life of your tissues. So therefore, diabetes has been known for a major cause of causing blindness. People having diabetes, you'll see that their kidney fails at a very young age or a relatively at a younger age, and even their lower limb, they can be amputated in severe cases because their ability to walk, their ability to function properly, have locomotory functions like moving hands, moving your feet, it is affected. So that is why diabetes, although it is quite common, but it is also very severe, and we need to control our blood sugar levels. Now let us quickly understand how are diabetes categorized. First category is known as type 1 diabetes. Now, type 1 diabetes is a condition where your immune system, it destroys your insulin making cells that are present in our pancreas, and the cells which actually produce insulin, these are called as beta cells. So type 1 diabetes is a condition that your body is not able to produce insulin, or even if it is producing, the amount of insulin produced is very less. And therefore, to deal with such diabetes, you require daily administration of insulin, and that is usually done through syringes. So people having type 1 diabetes, you will see these people daily or more than once daily, they take injections of insulin, which helps them control their blood sugar levels or glucose levels in their blood. Now, this type of diabetes is usually diagnosed in children and people having young age. So, it is also called as juvenile diabetes, and the symptoms of this type 1 diabetes is excessive excretion of urine, thirst, constant hunger, weight loss, vision changes and fatigue. Now, this type 1 diabetes is mostly a genetically caused diabetes. So it is mostly a genetic condition. Sometimes it can't be a lifestyle condition, but mostly it is a genetic condition, right? So please remember this fact. Now let us understand the another form of diabetes known as type 2 diabetes. Now this type 2 diabetes, it results whenever your body is able to produce insulin, but your body is ineffective or is not able to use that insulin to control your blood sugar level. And what is most important about this type 2 diabetes is that most people who they have diabetes, most likely they have type 2 diabetes. Therefore, more than 95% of the people globally who have diabetes, they are having type 2 diabetes, whereas the type 1 diabetes is somewhat rare. It usually affects about 5% people. Okay. Now, this type of a disease or type 2 diabetes is a lifestyle disease, which means it is a result of excessive body weight, or it might also be a result of your physical inactivity. So therefore, this diabetes is caused by your own habits, not by your genetics. So you need not blame your genetics due to or for type 2 diabetes. Now the symptoms for type 2 is very similar to type 1 diabetes, but the onset is quite slow. So that is why people having type 2 diabetes, if they do not get their blood sugar levels checked, the probability is they won't even know that they are they have type 2 diabetes, right? So this is the difference between type 1 and type 2. Type 1, it leads to zero or very little production of insulin. Type 2, you are producing insulin, but your body is unable to harness it. And type 1 is a genetically caused disease mostly. Type 2 is a lifestyle caused disease that can affect people who have excess body weight or people who are not very used to doing physical activity. Okay. Now, there is also third type of diabetes known as gestational diabetes. Now, this type of a diabetes, here it consists of high blood glucose during the pregnancy period and often affects the women who are who are bearing the child. Now, this type of a diabetes can lead to complications for both mother and the fetus, that is her inner body. So, therefore, it is quite a dangerous effect. Now, this gestational diabetes usually disappears after the woman gives birth to a child, but women who is affected by this type of diabetes and her children, going forward, they are at an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. So, that is why this is crucial. What you have to remember, this is not a permanent diabetes. It can lead to permanent diabetes. However, the effect of gestational diabetes usually disappears after the woman gives birth to the child. So, this happens during the pregnancy period. Okay. Now, let us come back to type 5 diabetes. Don't worry, there is no type 3 or type 4 diabetes. So, this is type 5 diabetes, which is the subject of our today's discussion. Now, type 5 diabetes is a type of disease which usually affects lean and malnourished teenagers. On one hand, we understood type 2 diabetes affects who? People who have high weight or who are not used to having physical activity. Whereas this type 5 diabetes, it affects people who are very thin or lean, or they are malnourished teenagers and even young adults who are prominently living in these low and middle income countries. Now, the disease, it causes pancreatic beta cells to function abnormally, therefore, it leads to insufficient production of insulin. So, in that matter, it is very similar to type 1 diabetes, that it leads to very little or zero production of what? The insulin. And insulin, we understood, is essential if we want to control our blood sugar level. Now, the official recognition provided to type 4 diabetes has actually renewed the attention of the globe on the impact of malnutrition on pancreatic development and insulin function. And this particularly affects individuals who have poor nutrition during their childhood and during their earlier adulthood. So, therefore, it can also lead to diabetes, something this has earlier not been recognized. Now, it is recognized that not just having excessive weight, but having very less weight also can cause diabetes. Now, what you have to remember, that what are indicators of type 5 diabetes. The people who are affected by type 5 diabetes, they are usually show certain kind of indicators. First is having a very low body mass index. Now you understand the amount of fat that a person has can be estimated by a figure known as body mass index, and the body scans of people who are affected by type 5 diabetes, it has revealed that they experience a substantially lower percentage of body fat, that is very low levels of body mass index as compared to people with type 2 diabetes case. You understand this is caused by physical inactivity and excessive body fat. So people with type 2 diabetes will have high body mass index. People with type 5 diabetes will have low body mass index. And the dietary intake of people suffering from type 5 diabetes, the dietary intake in terms of protein, fiber, essential micronutrients, it is significantly low, and insulin secretion therefore gets severely reduced, which is much lower than people with type 2 diabetes. We understood in type 2 diabetes insulin is actually getting secreted, but it is not being harnessed by body, but their insulin levels of type 5 people are usually just above the level seen in type 1 diabetes. So in that case, it is similar to type 1 diabetes because both these people have zero or very low amount of insulin. Now, what causes type 5 diabetes? First, this article highlights that malnutrition causes type 5 diabetes, and this begins at the time when the fetus is in the womb. Now, if the baby does not get the right amount of nutrition while growing in the womb, it can increase the risk of him having or her having the diabetes later in her life. And when baby is born with underweight and they get overnourished over a period of time and gain weight much later, it can lead to type 2 diabetes. Whereas if the baby stays undernourished during the time of pregnancy and even after the birth stays undernourished, then that person will be able to get what? Type 5 diabetes. So understand, so rapid gain in the weight at the time of birth and after the child grows can lead to type 2 diabetes, and the weight does not change, the child stays malnourished, it will lead to type 5 diabetes. Any doubt up till now? Now, this article also says how can diabetes or type 5 diabetes be treated. Now, first of all, you have to recognize that this disease has actually been recognized right now. It has been provided recognition right now. So, specific diagnostic criteria and therapeutic guidelines which are brought by official organizations or doctors association, these are yet to be finalized. However, experts still highlight the importance of high protein diet, which is essential for a person who has a very low levels of body mass index, and also adequate amount of carbohydrates and fats are also needed so that they gain at least some kind of a weight and not stay malnourished. Also, anti-diabetic medicine and insulin giving to these people can also lead to control of their blood sugar level. So this is what we know right now. The guidelines will come later on, and when it comes, I'm sure we'll cover in our today's newspaper. Now, if you have understood this, let's see whether you are able to solve this particular question. I'll get out of your way, give the answer quickly. Sarang, has Sarang come today? Well, type 5 diabetes is primarily caused by lifestyle factors. Type 2 diabetes is an autoimmune disorder that results in destruction of insulin producing beta cells. Gestational diabetes occurs during pregnancy and usually resolves after childbirth. We have to understand or highlight which of the following is correct. Now, Bhanu Baga says B, Achal says only C, Soham says A, Achal says B, Amar C, 3 only. Well, first and 2, if you have recognized, these statements have interchanged. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disorder that leads to destruction of insulin producing beta cells, and type 2 diabetes is a lifestyle disease. Understand? So 1 and 2 are interchanged, that is why both of them are incorrect. Third one is right as it is a straightforward, so option B is your right answer. So most of you have gotten it right. Now let us move to second article. This second article appeared in the economy page of the Indian Express newspaper, and it talks about that center may target asset monetization of 2 lakh crore in this particular financial year, that is 2025-26. So 2025-26 financial year sometimes officially is also abbreviated as financial year 26. So these two sum are same only. Now, center may has set an asset monetization target of 1.9 to 2 lakh crore rupees in this financial year under the second phase of national monetization pipeline, with focus on sectors such as road, power, railways, coals and mines. So this brings my attention. Do you know what is national monetization pipeline? Is it a pipeline so that government gets money? Is it literally a pipeline? The answer is no. So what is it exactly? Let us try to find this one out. Now, the term asset monetization, let us understand the term asset monetization. Now, you understand, you might have certain assets, private companies might have certain assets, government companies might have certain assets. Case in point, Indian Oil Corporation, right? Now, Indian Oil Corporation, what are their assets? They have refineries which usually distills crude and makes petrol, diesel, LPG, ATF, etc., right? Indian Oil might also have oil pipelines, which results into that the oils that are made in the refineries of Indian Oil, they need to be transported to markets, right? So the pipelines take oil from the refinery and distribute them throughout the country through pipelines. So what is asset for Indian Oil? Refinery is an asset for Indian Oil. Those pipelines that it has laid out is an asset for Indian Oil. The land that Indian Oil has, where the refinery is located, where the pipelines are located, where its offices are located, where its colonies are located, all of this also is an asset of Indian Oil. Similarly, machines, computers, whatever there is present in the offices of Indian Oil, that is also an asset. Now, when government lends these assets to anybody and charges money to them, that is called as asset monetization, right? So in national monetization pipeline, what you have to understand, that core assets of any company, these are usually transferred to private sector for a limited time, and the private sector using those assets of the government company will provide money to the government company. So this is what asset monetization is. Now, what you have to remember, that national monetization pipeline only involves transfer of core assets. So what is core asset in cases of Indian Oil? Suppose Indian Oil is an oil refining and marketing company. So pipeline to transport petroleum products is a core asset of Indian Oil. Refinery is a core asset of Indian Oil. But is land of Indian Oil a core asset? No, because usually land can be used for anything. It can be used to manufacture or construct a refinery. It can also be used to construct a building which is office or homes of Indian Oil employees, right? So that might not be a core asset. Similarly, what is the core asset of National Highway Authority of India? The roads, the highways, the expressway. This is a core asset of NHAI because it is what? Essentially a road regulating company, whereas other lands and offices of NHAI won't be its core asset. Similarly, what is the core assets of railway? It is the railway lines, it is the railway platforms, these are core assets, whereas land, offices of Indian Oil, Indian Railways, not a core asset, right? So therefore, NMP, it does not include monetization of non-core assets like land, buildings. It only includes monetization of core assets like roads for NHAI, shipping corporation, ports for Airport Authority, it is the airports. For BSNL, it is their telecom towers. Similarly, for railways, it is their railway lines. For Indian Oil, for GAIL, for ONGC, it is their refinery and energy pipeline. These are core assets, right? So yes, Baga Springs, it is like leasing out your infrastructure for private sector so that they use your infrastructure and pay you money for it, right? So that is national monetization pipeline. Now, assets which are central to the business objective of any organization or for any government company, that are categorized as a core asset for purpose of monetization. Now, this monetization proceed, it can be anything. For example, if Indian Oil has a large or vast network of oil pipelines. So what if a private company, say Reliance Industries or Naira Energy, want to transport their petroleum products in the lines of Indian Oil? So they can use the petroleum lines of Indian Oil, and by sending those petroleum products, the Reliance company or the Naira Energy will have to pay money to Indian Oil because it is utilizing its infrastructure. So that is the part of monetization. Now it can be form of upfront revenues for leases. Revenue sharing operation might also happen. Suppose Indian Oil says that, see, my petroleum lines do not operate 24/7. There is a certain period in a day when I send petroleum products through my line, but for the rest of the time that line stays vacant or that line stays unoperational. So why don't you use my petroleum line to send your petroleum products and in return pay me the money? So the private company will be quite happy. So that also will lead to revenue sharing, that whatever money Indian Oil is making from these kind of resources, this is a source of revenue from Indian Oil. Similarly, Indian Railway can say to any private company, see, bring your own trains, run them on my railway lines and pay me money. So this is the monetization of railway lines, right? So this is how the concept of monetization work. Now, is national monetization pipeline privatization? You might, those who are on Twitter or known as X these days, you might see there are a lot of political parties saying the government is privatizing its core assets, government is privatizing what is known as jewels of the Indian government. The answer is no. This is not privatization, because the ownership of the asset that is belonging to the government or any government PSU remains with the government. Only the assets are transferred to a private sector for limited time based on the contract that these two entities sign. Now, what kind of assets will be given to private sector? These will be brownfield assets, which means newer development assets will not be given. The existing assets of the government companies will be given to private sector, and in return private sector will have to pay money, and this deal will be based on a structured contract, and also the private companies will have to ensure that the quality parameters, performance indicators are matched, otherwise that contract is liable to get cancelled. So this is how you maximize the value of your assets by using those assets. For example, you have your mobile phone, right? So you might say to your friend who does not have the mobile phone, see, please use my phone, but for every 1 minute of call, give me 1 rupee, right? So this is you monetizing your mobile phone. Similarly, you can monetize anything else, right? So similarly, if you are living in a 3 BHK apartment and if you do not have a use of 1 room, you can rent it out to anyone else, say that use my room, pay me 10,000 rupees every month. So you are monetizing your home. Similar how the government is monetizing. Now, the government, to monetize its infrastructural assets, brought a scheme known as National Monetization Pipeline. The phase 1 of the scheme, here government has envisaged that aggregate potential of 6 lakh crore worth of assets will be given to private sector, and these will be in form of leasing of core assets only of the central government. Now, the sectors in which these monetization happened, the highest share of sectors, that 83% of total share were having with roads, that is had 27% of share, followed by railways, power sector, oil and gas pipeline, and telecom sector. And what you have to remember, that only roads and railways, they together accounted for more than 50% of share of total money that the government will get for monetization. Now, it has been reported that phase 1 has led to 98% recovery of the money that was envisaged originally, and this happened during the 4-year period, that is from financial year 2022 till last financial year of 2025. Now, this is the table that I have attached. You can see the total value estimated by the government was 6 lakh crore. Highest was given to roads, then railways, power transmission and generation, natural gas and product pipeline, as well as telecom sector. So these 5 sector in total accounted for how much percentage? 83% of total money that the government is expected to get in the first phase. Now, the details of second phase is expected to come soon. Whenever the details come, I will tell you in the today's lecture or that day's lecture. Now, let's see if you are able to solve this question quickly. Any doubt in asset monetization? Well, National Monetization Pipeline aims to monetize core asset of the central government by transferring the ownership to private players. Well, this statement obviously is correct. This is leasing of assets and not transfer of ownership. This NMP targets only greenfield infrastructure assets for monetization. This is again only brownfield assets. You understand the difference between brownfield and greenfield? Now, the Ministry of Finance is the sole authority responsible for implementation and oversight of NMP. Well, the sole authority responsible is Niti Aayog, and this will be also done by cooperation of Ministry of Finance. So these two authorities are majorly responsible. Niti Aayog was responsible for identifying, and mostly the Ministry of Finance is responsible for its oversight. So third statement also incorrect, rest 2 were incorrect only. So option D is your right answer, none of the above. Any doubt in the greenfield and brownfield options? Yes, actually, can this in any way boost operations and quality? Yes, because private companies, they usually get maximum for their buck. So whenever they are spending money on anything, their efficiency on using that product will be quite high. Also, whenever a government suppose gives a highway to a private sector saying that use this highway, collect tolls, but operation and management of this highway is your responsibility. So in order to get maximum amount of toll, what private companies will do, they'll construct the highways quite well and they'll maintain the highways quite well. So government will realize, see, they are operating the highways, airports better than me. Have you ever been to Delhi or Mumbai airport? The control of that Mumbai and Delhi airport usually is vested in a private company. For Delhi airport, it is GMR. For Mumbai airport, it is GVK. So the levels of airport in Delhi and Mumbai, it is much better in terms of quality of services offered and the luxury of that airport as compared to government operated airport. So this is one example that I say how when private sector operates any particular industry, that is usually quite high performing. Now this using of infrastructure to maximize its use, this is a part of infrastructure in the economy syllabus. Now infrastructure majorly is a mains related topic and I take them in detail in our P2I foundation classes. Now right now the admissions have started for April morning batch and this is going to continue till 21st of April. But please do not wait. If you want to take admission, do not wait for the last time. Right now, you can get this course at 35,000 rupees. How to enroll for such courses? You have to create an account by going to our website, click on explore courses. Now, if you want to take your teachings in English only language, you have an option to scroll down in this tab and click on UPSC IS English. As soon as you click on that, the first tile option will provide you to take admissions for the foundation batches. Now, right now in this slide, you can see that it is available at 41,999. But let me tell you a way, by using the code which is flashing on the bottom half of your screen, you can get even more discounts on our platform. Let me demonstrate you how to get these discounts. Click on add promo code here. As soon as you click on add promo code, you will be given an option to enter coupon code write ATS live and click on apply. As soon as you click on apply, you will see that the discount now is applicable for 7,000 rupees and the value of diamond course fees, which was 41,999, it has now reduced to 34,999. Similarly, discounts are also available for platinum and gold courses, but according to my recommendation, diamond one is the best and you will get it at a much discounted rate only by applying ATS live code, right? So please do that if you want to take admissions, and in my opinion, April is the best time if you want to prepare for next year's prelims, because it gives you about roughly 12 to 13 months of time, which is quite good amount of time if you are serious enough, right? Now let us move to another article. This article appeared in yesterday's Indian Express newspaper and it talks about that amid increase in digital arrest cases, 4 people have been held by CBI after it conducted a raid at 12 different places. So what is important from this news is that Central Bureau of Investigation or CBI has launched a new phase of Operation Chakra to combat cybercrime. So what is Operation Chakra? How does CBI or what is CBI? All of this, let us try to understand this. Now this one is actually the 5th phase of Operation Chakra, which was launched to target specifically the instances of cybercrime and organized crime. Now the 5th phase is looking to combat transnational organized cybercrime and digital arrest, because people who have been arrested digitally, that this is essentially a fraud when a person calls you on WhatsApp, calls you on a video call and says, see, you have been arrested digitally, you need not contact any of your family member and lock yourself in the room. And there have been instances where educated people, I repeat, they have stayed in cyber arrest for days. And this has led the cyber criminals extort a large amount of money, telling them otherwise will put you in real jail. So this is the kind of cyber fraud that is going on, and to correct these kind of cyber fraud, CBI is taking action under Operation Chakra. Now the earlier phases of Operation Chakra, that is from phase 1 to phase 4, it focused on other kinds of cybercrime, that is OTP fraud, loan app scams, job scam rackets, fake investment scheme like Lakshmi Chit Fund of Hera Fairy. All of this kind of scams earlier were dealt with or by CBI. Now the objective of this mission or operation is to combat cybercrime and protecting citizens and global communities, as well as increase coordination with other law enforcement agencies located in other countries. For example, in US, if the cyber criminals are located in US, they'll cooperate with FBI, with Interpol to dismantle such kind of networks, which in many cases are not located only in your country, but may can extend to other countries also, right? Good evening, Yashi. Now, let us get back to what is CBI, because essentially CBI is very important from our exams perspective. Now, CBI was set up in 1963 based on the recommendation made by a committee known as Santhanam Committee. Now, the legal status of CBI is somewhat different, and please remember that it is not a statutory body. NIA, I told you a few days back, it is a statutory body because it was formed as per an act passed by Indian Parliament. However, this or CBI derives its power to investigate based on an act known as Delhi Special Police Establishment Act of 1946, DSPE Act. Now this organization, it works related to corruption cases. It works under Central Vigilance Commission, because Central Vigilance Commission is responsible for implementing which act? Prevention of Corruption Act 1966. Whereas for other cases, it reports to Department of Personnel and Training, which is a department of Government of India. So it works under different ministries. Similarly, this body can be ordered by High Court and Supreme Court to conduct investigation. So in that cases, it reports to judiciary also. So this is why when it functions under different act, therefore it allows it to have a very liquid kind of a organizational setup. Essentially, this is an investigative agency. It can investigate crimes which can lead to murder. It can investigate crimes which is done by organized crimes, and for terrorism, which is the authority to investigate, that is NIA, not CBI. Please remember that. Now, one of the most important offices for any police service or IPS official, if you're going to clear IPS, you'd want to become a CBI director, believe me. Now, office of CBI director is very important, and a person who is selected as a CBI director is usually in news because this organization is very high profile. Now, the CBI director is appointed by Appointments Committee of Cabinet, which is appointing a person based on recommendation of a selection committee. Now, this selection committee gets its power from Lokpal and Lokayuktas Act, and who is in this selection committee? It includes Prime Minister of India, Leader of Opposition, as well as Chief Justice of India or a judge nominated by Chief Justice of India. And the term of the director of CBI is usually 2 years. However, after completion of 2 years, he can be given a 3 extensions of 1 year each. So technically it can be extended up till a 5-year tenure, but he has to have a 2-year-old tenure, right? So that is why CBI director is in news, because this includes selection committee, which also includes leader of opposition, and you understand any leader of opposition, regardless of the party, they'll always make it a point to not agree with the choices of prime minister. So that is why this kind of a political bickering over who to appoint as CBI director is in news, and therefore the probability of such questions coming in UPSC exam is also quite high. Now, one issue also which is highlighted by CBI, that CBI can't investigate cases in any particular state without the permission or consent of that particular state government. So, suppose if CBI has to investigate a case located in Tamil Nadu, so it has to take permission from the Tamil Nadu government. Now, usually what the government does, any state government does, to ease the process and not to allow CBI directors or CBI officials to again come to them to seek permissions every time, they provide what is known as general consent, that see, this is the general consent, investigate any case that you want. And this is given under section 6 of DPSC Act, which requires CBI to obtain consent from the state government to investigate the jurisdiction unless it is an union territory or railway area. Now, union territory or railway area, it is belongs or it is controlled by union government. So here CBI does not need to take permission, whereas law and order essentially is the responsibility of state government. So it is the state police who is responsible for investigating such cases. But sometimes if that case is quite high profile, you need CBI to investigate so as to ensure the integrity of the investigation. But CBI can't investigate therein, it needs permission from the state government. Now, generally state governments extend permissions without any case, that is known as general consent. But since 2025, we have seen that many states, they have withdrawn the general consent. By withdrawing of general consent, what it means that if any crime happens and CBI wants to investigate it, every time they have to go to state government and take the permission. Now, what are the cases where consent is not needed? If investigation is directed by Supreme Court or High Court, here also consent is not needed. And if the investigation pertains to union territory or railway area, here also consent is not needed. Understand this difference of general and particular consent? If you have, let's see if you are able to solve this question. Bhanu says C, Baga says B. Bhanu B, Achal B. So Bhanu changed her answer or his answer, no problem. Yashi says option B. Sarang B. Now consider the following statements regarding the appointment of director of CBI. CBI director is appointed by the President of India on the recommendation of a selection committee. The selection committee consists of Prime Minister, Chief Justice of India and the leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha. Now, what you have to understand that CBI director is not appointed by the president, he is appointed by the government of India. Now, the tenure of CBI director is fixed for a period of 5 years. This is also incorrect. It is fixed for 2 years. It can be extended 1 year at a time at maximum of 3 times. So, therefore, it sometimes can be stretched to 5 years, but the tenure definitely is 2 years. So, third statement is correct. Only 2 is right. First one is also incorrect. So, option B is your right answer. Says everyone is right. No problem, Bhanu. If you have made a mistake, we are only humans. Now, how Japan built a 3D printed station in just 6 hours. That was the news that appeared in last week's newspaper. I am covering it today so that you do not miss out on what is 3D printing. Now, I have taken the screenshot from the website. Hope it is okay with you. Now, the context is Japan built a 3D printed station in just 6 hours. Now, you understand these countries like Japan, China, they are very efficient. But 6 hours is just too much. So, what is the 3D printing that allowed Japan to construct a train station so quickly? Now, you understand how furniture is made, right? Any one of you might have seen carpenter working on your furniture. So, what does carpenter do? Suppose in order to make a table, what carpenter does is that they bring a large piece of wood, mark the wood with dimensions and then cut the wood, right? Similarly, they cut other pieces and join them with a nail or with a glue. So, this is how tables are made, that you take a large piece of wood and you carve that wood into smaller pieces as per your requirement. Similarly, other pieces of furniture like beds, etc., they are also made in a similar way. That requires you to bring a larger form of that commodity and cut it and carve it according to your own specification. Similarly, your utensils or the outer covering of your mobile phone, that might be made of aluminum. So, how you make that outer covering of your mobile phone or the case of your mobile phone? You take a larger piece of aluminum, mold it according to your circumstances, beat it, cut it, whatever you want to do, right? So, this is actually known as reductive manufacturing, that you take a large piece of wood and you carve it down to a smaller pieces or a shape of your choice. So, this usual place is known as reductive manufacturing. Now, what is the side effect of this reductive manufacturing? It may generate large amount of wastage, right? So, suppose if you have brought this bigger wood, but you require this bigger wood, so the rest that you have cut might be wasted. Similarly, with metals, although they can be melted and form again, but what about other commodities, right? So, this reductive manufacturing process leads to wastage and also it can lead to a large amount of time taken to construction. So, on the other hand, this brings me to what is 3D printing. Now, 3D printing is a process of creating any 3-dimensional object from digital models by adding material layer by layer, right? So, I told you reductive manufacturing process is you cutting down, you removing a larger piece of wood and carving a smaller piece of wood. But when opposite happens, that layer by layer, if you make something and carve it according to a shape, that is called as 3D printing, and it is also known as what? additive manufacturing. The earlier process or the usual process I told you, that was reductive. This is additive, that you make one layer of good, then you make another layer of good, then you make another layer of good, and slowly by slowly the bigger shape takes place. Now it is an additive process in which layers of material like plastic, composites, biomaterial, they are built up to construction objects, and according to range, shape, rigidity, color of your own choice. Now the benefits of 3D manufacturing is that it allows creation of complex shapes and structures with high precision. Now usually there are some compounds that you need to make it as per your own specification, that are usually bespoke or that are exclusive. So for that, suppose if you are taking a reductive manufacturing process, that will take a lot of time. First of all, you have to train the person, you have to carve out the mold, you have to carve out that cast, and then only you can manufacture it. But when it comes to smaller pieces or pieces that require to be manufactured only once, this 3D printing is very essential. It leads to less amount of time in development and also less amount of time in manufacturing. Also, it leads to less amount of cost per material also. Now, how 3D printing is done? First, basic principle of 3D printing is that before building an object layer by layer, what you have to do, you have to create a digital model of that object in the computer with computer aided design. Now, this computer software, what it does is that once you create a design, it carves that design into layer by layer and orders the printer to print it layer by layer. So the 3D printer then reads these slices and deposits and solidifies material as per the computer program, gradually building up the final object. Now various 3D printing technologies include fuse deposit modeling, selective laser sintering, blinding jetting, stereolithography. Just remember the names, no need to get in details. What you have to remember is that before building object, you create a model in the computer. That model will actually order the printer to start manufacturing it layer by layer, and slowly by slowly the essential commodity is made as per your own specification. Understand what is 3D printing? Any doubt? Now 3D printing has application in which of the following? This question appeared in PYQ of 2018. So I'll want you to read this 3D printing again and let me know the correct answer in the comment section after this session ends. Okay. Now let us move to another article of the day. This talks about the India Middle East Economic Corridor Initiative. And why is India Middle East Economic Corridor is in news? India and Italy have decided to work jointly in implementing the ambitious India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. Now earlier India Italy, they did not have a very good relation because of an incident that happened in the Indian coastal waters, that there was this commercial ship that had Italian marines in it, and as the fishermen were approaching the ship, the marines thought that they were pirates and shot them down. So it actually led to souring of the relations between India and Italy. But in recent times, we have seen because of increased interaction between leaders, the relationship has again started to progress. Now the Deputy Prime Minister of Italy, who is also the Foreign Minister of Italy, has come on an official visit to India, and after his meeting with India's own Foreign Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, they agreed to increase the cooperation between these two countries under the framework of Joint Strategic Action Plan. Now, this is the biggest reason why the relationship between India and Italy has increased, because the comfort levels of leader also increases. As you can see, whenever two leaders of a country, they have good comfort level, they do everything to improve the relations between two countries. For example, George W. Bush and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, their comfort levels with each other was quite good, and therefore at the time of George Bush, India signed what? India signed Indo-US Civil Nuclear Agreement. So this is how personal rapport between leaders also helps in your improving of your relations. Now first let us talk about the Joint Strategic Action Plan. This was launched in November 2024 at Rio de Janeiro when Prime Minister Modi met PM Giorgia Meloni, which led to this earlier photograph known as Melody pictograph. Okay. Now the focus area of this Joint Strategic Action Plan is to improve trade and investment, defense and security, clean energy, green transition, space, science and tech, education, mobility, etc. Right? Now one of this also includes increasing cooperation between two countries to implement and start functioning of India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. Now you understand, one of the global economic corridors that is made by China is known as Belt and Road Initiative, but because of many factors, India is not a part of the Belt and Road Initiative, primarily because it goes through a Indian sovereign Indian territory known as Pakistani occupied Kashmir. So this Pakistani occupied Kashmir, in essence, in law belongs to India, but it is illegally under the control of Pakistan. But regardless of the sensitivity of India over it, China is constructing its Belt and Road Initiative, and it also passes through Gilgit and Baltistan, which is also an Indian territory. So because of this, India is not a part of PRI. So India actually needs its own economic corridor, which will lead to deepening of Indian business relations with other countries. So for that, India and US jointly, they have proposed construction and development of a India Middle East Europe economic corridor, which is a strategic trade and connectivity initiative linking Asia, Europe and Middle East via railroad, via ship to rail networks. Now the origin of this corridor was, it was announced on the sidelines of G20 meeting in New Delhi. The members of this corridor includes India, European Union, US, Middle Eastern major countries like Saudi, UAE, as well as European countries like Germany, Italy and France. Now the aim of this corridor is to integrate these continents and enhance the economic cooperations between these two regions. Now the primarily development of these two corridors is that it comprises of two corridors, East corridors which connects India to Arabian Gulf, and Northern corridor which connects Gulf to Europe. So this is the image. This is the Eastern corridor connecting India to Middle East, and the Western corridor connecting Middle East to Europe. This includes a railway initiative and ship to rail initiative also, right? Now these are the ports which will be the part of IMSE. Please go through this once I upload the notes. Right. Now let's see if you are able to solve this particular question. With reference to India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, consider the following statement. It was announced during G20 summit in 2023 that was held in India. Yes. And the corridor is expected to connect the port of Mundra in Gujarat directly to Rotterdam in Netherlands through a undersea high-speed railway networks. One of the strategic objectives of IMAC is to enhance the energy and digital connectivity between the participating regions. So option B, 1 and 3, yes, obviously. Second will be incorrect, because how will you underlie high-speed railway network? This does not make sense. It includes railway network, but overland. Over sea, you have to connect them by ships, right? So first and third is correct. Second one is not. So option B again is the right answer. Now let us move to the last article of the day. This article talks about fall in the value of dollar, and fall in the value of dollar is unusual. You might have heard in the news, rupee is falling or another currency is falling, but never dollar. But this time this has happened. So that is why it is quite significant, and it is my gut feeling that question relating to this topic somehow might be asked in this year's prelim. So please better be prepared. Now this is almost 4:53. I have to rush for another class. So what I'll do is that I will take the session at 9 PM after my class ends, only at a promise that you will see that lecture. Okay, so I will upload the notes on this particular channel. After that, I take the 9 PM session. So it will take around 15-20 minutes for me to explain this ongoing event. This is very important, so please make sure to attend and watch that lecture. It will go live at 9, and I will upload the notes after that I take that lecture. Everything I will upload today after 9 PM. Okay, so I'll see you again. Please have a very good evening. We'll meet again at 9 PM. Okay.